This video is going to be about 4 things that intimidates guys about you, and 4 things that drives them away. Or 4 reasons why you may have trouble finding and or keeping a man. Now let's get into it. There are plenty of men who say they can't date a woman who make more money than them, which to women sounds very small of them at first. But few people dig deeper than that question. Can you date a woman who makes more money than you? Sometimes it's not as simple as writing him off as weak, and that's why he's intimidated by single successful women. Sometimes, while it's not often articulated by men, there are some very valid points to be made. Of course, this won't apply to all successful women, but I've met many that this does apply to. And remember, I'm a dating coach. I talk to about 1,000 women a year between email and phone calls, so I'm not just making this shit up. Remember, my videos are always going to be about pushing your evolutions forward. Plenty of successful women are already balanced and just having trouble finding an equal. But there are just as many who lack balance in some of these areas. With that said, the first thing that intimidates men away from successful women is too much independence. Maybe you've heard this saying before. Women love to feel wanted. Men love to feel needed. We often hear about how some men love the idea of a woman who needs nothing from them, but this usually refers to tangible things, material assistance, or obligations to help her progress. This rarely for most men means emotional desire or trust. Everyone needs to feel desired in one way or another, and most men with an intent to love need an emotional purpose to serve. No one wants to feel useless. Not to need a man's help is one thing. Not to need a man's love is another. When some men appear to be intimidated by successful women, this is what they're intimidated by. Having no use in her life whatsoever. There's no security in uselessness. It's not about the success at that point. It's the indifference they fear. The hope is to still feel like a stable in her life, even though she doesn't need you financially or materially. Not like one of those damn paperweights on her office desk. And a lot of women know what that feels like. To feel like an inanimate object. Who could be lost, who could come or go without being noticed at all. To be picked up and put down. To be moved from place to place without really even having a place. For real men, their masculinity lies in their sense of purpose. For one to have no discernible purpose in your life would emasculate him. The second thing that intimidates men away from successful women sometimes is an inability to be vulnerable. Sometimes successful women have trouble being vulnerable. The adjustments one has to make in getting to the top of certain industries doesn't always lend itself to femininity, as men often recognize it. You know, softness, malleable, accommodative. Those things will kill your career if you're a successful woman competing with the worst of the worst trying to get to the top. Swimming with the sharks. If you swim with the sharks long enough, you become a shark. Some, not all women, work in very competitive male-dominated industries and become very cold and combative and don't know how to turn it off. This particular sticking point can be more difficult for women to overcome whose initial motivation for success was childhood trauma. But whether or not traumatic histories exist, the fear is that a woman's heart is impenetrable because of her obvious mistrust for the world around her. Most men hope to be admired by their women, not competed with. Successful women often develop reputations for being cold and callous in the office. If they're single for too long, having assumed those roles, they become cold and callous at home. They haven't made those adjustments next to enough masculine energy at home. They develop a tougher shell to overcome the oppressive nature in most professional industries. Energetically, some women can't turn that off. It becomes who they are. In this case, it's not the money or the job title, but the inability to be vulnerable that pushes men away. Because for a man, it can feel like he's not making progress with you if you're not softening up. It feels like he has no effect on you, that he's a no one. Moving on, the third thing that can intimidate guys away from successful women is when some women can't leave their rank or their status at the door and compete with him for authority in the home. Authority that he may feel like traditionally belongs to a man. Yes, some men are very insecure. I'll give you that. But it's also true that some women are trying to be the man in their home over a man because they themselves are insecure about being hurt. Struggles over power and being at war with your spouse is never a man's fantasy. And then there's the thing about time. Some men who are a little bit less successful and a little bit less busy still want to be prioritized by their women, right or wrong. It's kind of the same way with women who date successful men. They want a bigger chunk of the pie. They want to feel important. Successful people in general are known for being very busy, but neglect will never be a very good selling point unless someone can relate to your busy schedule. And I talk to a lot of women who are neglective to their partners or in their budding relationships because they just simply don't have time. Especially if they're entrepreneurs, they're trying to chase down leads and get customers. They don't have time to come home and be somebody's cuddle bear. So the fear that some women can't separate work from home is valid. Some business owners are business owners 24 hours a day. Some people with high-ranking jobs bring their work home with them. They have homework and things that they're working on all night. It can create a lot of separation in the home. If you don't have enough systems in place, or if you haven't delegated certain responsibilities or automated things, it can be very difficult to maintain your love life and maintain your professional life. Men do not want to get caught in that crossfire. Anyway, I say that to say, whether the issue is time or indifference or lack of vulnerability or emasculation, the fear is often not a successful woman's success, but a successful woman's potential character traits or character flaws. Right or wrong, just be aware that if you're in that position, men will love you. But the aforementioned traits are usually deal breakers if no adjustments can be made. Many times, the fear isn't your success or how much money you make. The fear is him not being loved completely. The fear is her being too guarded or too abrasive, from not being able to separate her energies. It's being talked down to or looked down at. It's her indifference. It's not her success that scares most men. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Follow me at KidFig24 on Instagram if you haven't already. I'll get with y'all later.